Hi, and welcome to Together We Solve, the Power Couple podcast, and we're your hosts, Kelly and Derek. How you doing, honey?
Hey, I'm doing good.
We have a wonderful episode tonight, but first I would like to speak to the audience, and if it's your first time tuning into our podcast, we like to talk about issues, current issues, things about life in general, family, and how do we share our life stories to tell you how we persevered right through our struggles and our challenges, and how you can too. Because at the end of the day, everybody should have hope, right? We should hope for the best, and we all can get over the things that life throws at us. Don't you agree?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, we're the podcast. I should say we're the real podcast. Yeah, we solve problems. We solve a lot of problems. I mean, I think that's just the general term that we use. And together, we do it quite often together. We're, as we've spoken about in a couple episodes before, and what you just touched on. It's about our life history, our experiences, our skill set, how we've helped others, how we've helped ourselves, how important it is to give back to the community. Just a whole variety of different topics. And then we had some guests on before. I think the main thing I like to tell people is, and I consistently talk about it, is you got to help yourself first before you can help others, but you have to understand how to help yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think we both have reached this point individually and together where we have helped ourselves grow.
Yeah.
And at this point, then this is why when you move back to Bristol, well, we moved back to Bristol. I'm originally from New York, but you're from
You
Bristol.
can tell by
You can tell
the
by the
accent, right?
accent. When we moved back I keep saying we moved back. I'm just gonna keep saying it
You
like
could,
that. We moved back.
whatever.
Okay, because I'm part of you now,
Well,
right?
well, also though we lived in Plainville. That's why
Right, we lived in Plainville. That's why I keep saying it like that. And we moved back to Bristol. You know, the goal was to immerse ourselves within the community because we wanted to give back. You wanted to give back to the people in your hometown.
Correct.
And this is what our topic is today for our podcast. And I'm just going to read. It's like, what does true community unity look like? And why does local leadership matter? So why is it important within your community to have everybody united, right? When we're facing issues, right? And then how do the local leaders play a part in that?
Well, first I'll touch because like we started off, you have to touch upon yourself first before you can help anyone else. So before you can help the community, before you can help individuals, before you can even start anything, you have to help yourself. So leadership in any facet, whether it's at your home, so you can be a leader at your house, whether you're the youngest, oldest, it doesn't matter, right? Leadership shapes everything: your attitude, your perspective, how you handle things, how do you execute things. If you do it in a negative manner, if you do it in a positive manner, if you do it efficiently, right? As a leader, could be many different. Mothers are leaders, fathers are leaders.
But what makes a true leader? Why don't we start there? Why
Yeah.
don't we let our audience understand, like, what is the definition of being a leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a leader to me takes action, takes responsibility for their action. They lead by example, not just words. So that's what I mean by the action. Leaders are also authentic, they're transparent, and they're honest. True leaders, and they get stuff done. So I use the word action.
And as a leader, how would you say, because people could say they're a leader, right?
Yeah.
But now you have people that are following you, right? The people that is you're helping, whatever the case may be. How do you treat those people? What makes a good leader? Because you could be a leader, but what makes a good leader?
So for me, I can say personally is communicating. How you communicate to somebody is very important. Some leaders can be dictators. Some leaders can, I don't know if they're a true leader, right? I guess so. I guess I'm trying to define that.
Right.
You have different types of leaders. You have some that lead without action, just words. And then you have those that lead with action and words. So for me personally, I say it's pretty clear, cut and dry. How I communicate with someone, I give them the same amount of respect. I teach them the whys behind things. So what I mean by the why behind something. So if I have to deliver a message, I have to get them to understand the whole aspect of it. So at work, I lead a project team and a production team. So I have to explain why the company is doing something at a high level and then how it filters all the way down to their job. And when they have that type of perspective, then it helps them do their job much more efficiently and a great deal quicker and better.
Now, what do you think about someone who we're saying a leader that leads with fear?
Yeah. So I call that the 1980s, 1990s type of leadership, where you do it my way, it only works this way, and this is the right way. Yeah, you can get people to work, and you can get them to work at a good level too. But the problem is what ends up happening, they start to break down. They start to become resistant and negative. They may be doing their job at what we think is a high level as far as metrics go, but personally, their personal lives are terrible. They're miserable at work. Um, Sometimes they commit suicide. You saw a lot of people jumping off, buildings and things. That's because of the high pressure. That's the reason why you would do that, because you made a certain amount of money, you lost it, but it's all a pressure situation. It makes you do things where, especially in I know for a fact, like in the mortgage industry, people would just write bad loans. They would actually fudge loans, people's names, because again, the high pressure. That's because that leader told them they have to do certain things in order to keep their job. They had to hit certain production, which is fine. You need benchmarks. You need cutoff points, and you need to strive to be the best you can. But you don't need to put that type of pressure on them. I'm just giving examples.
Right. So, a leader, as you're saying, like the 1980s leader who leads with fear, you're not really respecting
No.
the people that are working for you if you think providing fear is the way to get them to get the job done. Now, in the long run, right, that person is breaking down, that person is miserable. And like, who wants to go to work and be miserable? Who wants to go to work and walking on pins and needles and not sure if they're going to make it through the day? Like, that's not an environment that you want to create. And when you create an environment like that, is the company really truly successful? Is whatever project that you're working on, whatever you're doing, what is the definition of success? Now, if you have someone who at the end of this project leaves, or they start performing low, or whatever the case may be, is not being successful. So as a leader, if your employees or the people that you're working with fails, what does that say about you as a leader?
Well, for me, I would say you're not very effective. You're not effective. You're not very ethical either.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, some people are going to fail, right?
Right.
But it's a choice of their own.
Right.
Like when I manage my employees, I'm going to set you up for success, and I'm going to provide you all the resources and the tools. I mean, some managers, they just like purposely don't do that. It's just like, I'm just going to write you up for every little thing that you do. And they don't coach you, right? It's all about mentoring and coaching and setting up your team for success.
Yeah, I was talking about that the other day. I was having a one-on-one with someone. This was actually yesterday, and I had to kind of reprimand the person. But the way I did it, he said it was in a very coaching manner.
Exactly.
Even though he's almost about to get written up, he didn't. He just got a coaching, and he took it as, you know what, you coach. Unlike a lot of other leaders, you coach.
Right. Every moment is like a teaching moment. If the person,
because I'll give examples.
maybe they're not aware of what they did was wrong, right?
Or if they're aware how it affects people.
Or how it affects people, right? So it's that moment where you're teaching them, like, this wasn't right. This is the reason why. Like, what can we have done differently, and what can we do moving forward?
So one thing I do a lot is I've had a lot of experiences through my life, whether it's through managing or whether it's just through life itself or reading or whatever the case may be. So I like to use myself as an example, as a third-party example of something I've gone through and how I came out the other end. Even how I managed before 5-6 years ago is different than how I manage now. And I kind of explained that to the person at the time. I used to manage a lot more direct instead of giving a little bit more leadway and understanding. And I like the way I manage now, 5-6 years later, because I've challenged myself to get better, because I get a better response. I get people that want to actually work for me. Again, they just said it today. I was at my job, and one guy said to me, and his exact words were, "I would like to move, but only if I could stay on this team, and I know that's not possible." What kind of praise is that, right?
Right.
That's a better praise. Another person said too, as we're having the same conversation, she said to me, she's like, yeah, before I came to your team or before you were my manager, I used to think of things in a very negative way. I didn't like coming to work. Exact words. So you can be very, and they're high performers. I have them doing lots of different things for me. And I explained to them, even as we're speaking today, I had to relinquish control. So I think a lot of leaders think by leading is just controlling everything. In the particular situation I'm in on the product team, it was just too massive. I couldn't control everything. So I had to trust. I had to put trust. And ever since I've done that, my job has felt more comfortable too. It's still difficult, but it's felt more comfortable. It's still hard, but it's a better situation even for myself. And I just explained that to them today too. Even though they knew, I re-explained it again. So I try to explain the whole holistic viewpoint right down to their job, even how the company works, that I'm in.
So let's like change gears a little bit. So because we're
Sure.
talking more about leaders within like a workplace environment. So now, and I mean the whole topic is about community. So
Yeah.
we're taking that aspect. What about in the home, right? At home, we are parents, we have
Yeah.
children. So now you're in your home. And how do you present yourself as a leader and a mentor to your children, to other individuals within your household?
Yeah. So in most households nowadays, I think we have a unique dynamic where you probably have a split family somehow. And if you don't, you
We're
may
like a
down the
blended
road, a
family,
blended
right? Yeah.
family. So, like in our household, we have a
Mm-hmm.
blended family. So sometimes that's a little harder if you have separate kids from different marriages or different relationships to blend it together. And I'm not saying we got it together right away, but we have it together now. So it's communication between you and I, right? And there's that level. I'm sorry, people might not like this, but men and women are a little bit different when it comes to saying something. I'm probably a little bit more stern. Not to say you're not stern, but when I say it, and I'm more consistent with it. Not that you're not, but it's just a little different coming out of my mouth. So we take a little bit different roles sometimes, and then we communicate what we're doing, whether we're buying something, whether we're doing something for our kids individually. We really communicate that for the most part. So I think that is part of being a leader of the household too, right? And by example, if we make a mistake in the house, we say we make this mistake, we explain why the mistake was, so we explain the bigger picture to the kids too.
Right. So I think as you stated, like a blended family, like a lot of people have blended families, and sometimes the struggles
Yeah,
is what's happening outside of the household.
absolutely.
Those other parents or whether other households they're going to may be ran differently, but then is what we do in our
Mhm.
household. And our youth today, the world that we live in is so different than when we were growing up in terms of the way
For
you
the social
parent.
media, yes,
The
especially
way
too.
you parents and the way the school system is and what kids are being told when they go to school, so then they come home and it's like, how do you navigate through that as a parent that has to deal with so many
Yeah,
different
well,
people that is influencing
I, I be,
they have a lot of influences
yeah,
than
I'll be
before.
quite honest. I have the conversations that what we're doing in our household might sound a little different when you get to school, but what we're doing is we're going to teach you about what real life is and how to be ethical, how to be honest, how to treat others well, how to communicate with others. Again, I go back to that: how to communicate, have conversations with others, even if you get upset. If it's their fault, how do we re-communicate to them? How do we relay our message? And we do that a lot with the kids. Um, so out there, let's just touch on it. It's controversial all the time, where I think the schools are a little laxed in some cases, right? They can't say much to the kids, so therefore, when the parents, let's say you come from not a strict household. I wouldn't say our household is strict, but we have rules. We have
Right.
a set of guidelines. There's time to go to bed. There's a time to do certain things, and we stick by that consistently. So the kids don't really break that consistency. I think a lot of kids nowadays, I know when I was younger, I didn't have any consistency, and a lot of kids nowadays don't respect their parents because of the consistency, and that carries over to school.
Right.
That, so if you don't have consistency and you don't respect your parents because your parents want to be more friends to you than be parents to you, that carries over, and that's why kids are more disrespectful. And most of the time, it's single parents
Right.
in the household for the most
So
part.
it's like you're trying to find a balance, right?
Right.
You're trying to balance being that parent to your child, and then also being understanding of the outside influences
Yeah.
that they're being exposed to, and kind of having, and communication is the key. It's how
Right.
do you communicate to your child? How do you get them to
And
understand,
giving them
and giving
responsibilities.
them
So that's part of being
responsibility?
a leader is
Right.
having responsibility. So they see me and they see you every day that we do certain things in the household, outside the household, whether it's for our main job, whether it's for each other, whether it's for them. So they understand, oh wow, in this household, we may have to go the extra mile, but look what could come out of it.
Right. Right. And it's the connection, is the connection between you and I, and the connection with the kids.
Yes.
And, our main word here is unity, right?
Right.
So it was, is getting us united, because
Mhm.
we're well, not were, but we are a
We are
blended
blended. Yeah.
family, a family. You have kids, I have kids. And it's how did we get those, the kids to connect with each other, and for us to make it work.
Right.
And it's not easy. It's not something that happens overnight, but it's always a work in progress. And it's the communication part is the key. So with whether you're in your workplace,
Communication and action.
and action. So whether you're in your workplace, and whether you're the employee or you're the boss, is how you communicate with your other, with the coworkers in there, and how do you work as a team, and stand united. And the
Right.
same thing in a family structure is, how do you work together as a family? So when things are happening, how do you communicate that to each other, and how do you handle that together? Because I don't allow you to handle a situation alone, and you don't
Right.
allow me to
Right.
handle a situation
Everyone
alone.
has to do their part.
We all
That's
do our
part of
part.
being a
Right.
leader, whatever the situation is, right? You're a leader at sometimes in the household. I'm a leader at sometimes in the household, and then sometimes the kids, they have to take their own leadership role
Right.
within the household, and that's still having rules. That's still having respect. Leaders have to have respect they have to respect others in order to get respect back too. So the kids respect us. People respect me at my job because I respect them also for what they do.
What is the saying? Treat others like you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
You know.
In your expectations, I think sometimes people think, and I used to think too, 5, 6 years ago, that my expectations would have to drop. They don't, because now it's on you as either the kid, right, as the mother or as the father, whoever's doing the leading in that situation. You have to respond because you have all the tools, you have the answers. If you didn't, you were giving permission to ask, right? We say that whether you're at work or whether you're at home. So, whatever the situation is. So, I give people permission to ask me as many questions as you want, as long as you're respectful. That opens up the floor to a lot of different conversations. I've had a lot of deep conversations, especially with the older one, not so much with the younger one yet. And she's a girl, so I've had some deep conversations about what it means to treat your body. I'm not her biological father, but these are the conversations I felt like needed to be had. And I don't care. I don't shy away from it. But later on, she has respected that quite a bit.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
So I just think these are the situations. That's what a leader does, especially a male leader. He should take more of that role, I think, in my opinion. Women, we're a little different. I don't care what anyone says. You're supposed to be a little bit more coddling. That's part of your makeup, right? Me, I am supposed to be a little bit more. I have testosterone running through my body, a little bit more rigid sometimes. But I do have that perspective, though, to treat people fairly and honestly, and with respect, right? So, because I wouldn't want them yelling at me, so there's no need for me to
Right.
yell at them, right? Unless they did something wrong, right? If there's something wrong, sometimes you may have to raise your voice. And people don't like that, but that's the truth,
No, it's true.
right? So, in your household, our household, we lead our household, right? So, I don't think that's the case in a lot of households anymore. I'm sure there is in plenty, but in a lot of households, I think the government and other people have gotten involved where the kids feel like they have the power, and
Right.
that's ludicrous to me. It's absolutely wrong. It's not good leadership. Those kids are not developed yet. They're not ready to make those decisions. Whoever thought that it was okay to say, "Hey, kids can make their own decisions at such a young age," they're not mentally developed. I know when I was at a certain age, I wasn't making the same decisions I'm making today.
Right.
So experience helps you make good decisions. Being honest and ethical, I'll keep saying that word over and over, those two words, very important. Understanding different situations make you a better leader too.
So now that we focused on the work environment, we focused on a home. Now, how does that all spill out within the community? Because we're talking about
Yeah.
the community working as one. So now we have a bunch of leaders running around, right? So like,
Yeah.
how do you immerse yourself in the community and bring people together, not tear them apart?
Yeah, I firmly believe there's always a leader within a leader, though. If that makes sense. There's always that person, no matter who it is, whether it's yourself, me, or anyone else out in the community. And they may not be in a position of power, meaning they may not be in a government position, they may not be in an authoritative position,
Right.
right? But there's always that person or people that stick out above the rest because they're willing to speak out or say certain things, but not just say certain things to create controversy or to create more issues. I look at the leaders more, the ones that are sitting there trying to unite, like myself and like you. So I'll say something that of importance, but it's always going to be in a way where I'm trying to bring people together. Now, I'm not naive. I understand not everyone's going to meet at every situation because there's certain situations that even I'm not going to give in on. But I believe as human beings, if we communicate well, we always find something in common. And I'll touch on the situation where I found something in common within the community when I did a recent post. I went out to breakfast with a guy, and we're going back and forth because I plan on running for office in my town of Bristol for mayorship as an independent. And the guy's a Republican. He was going back and forth, and then somebody said something to him online, like, "What have you done for the community?" And struck a chord with him. And I had said, like about a week before that, I'm willing to meet anyone in person. And as we met one on one, and he's helped kids, I've helped kids. We had a great conversation, very touching conversation. To this day, whether he votes for me or not, he has my respect, and I know I have his respect because we communicated.
So are you saying that someone can actually sit down and have a conversation with someone and actually come to some common ground? Oh my God, because
Yeah,
people think that that can't happen.
yeah, they've been telling they try to
right.
tell us all the time, and that's
I know.
just not the case.
I know. I mean, you can speak to someone and you can figure out that there's something that you both love, the
Almost all
same
the
thing
time.
that you can relate to, that you feel strongly about. And I think in this world, that because we're in a world of social media, right? People post things. It's words. So sometimes you may take them out of different
Right,
out of
out of
context.
context,
Even texting
different.
someone takes it the wrong way, right? That's why it's important to actually take the time out. And that's what like our youth program is about, right? Because we talk about communication, and our kids are used to being on social media, used to texting each other. They don't sit in front of someone, look them in the eyes, and have a pure conversation. That's like a lost art. And people forget that because then you can't see a person's emotion behind a text message,
Right.
behind a post, right? You can misinterpret that. And it's important to speak to someone face to face and to really try to get a better understanding on their viewpoint and understand where they're coming from instead of judging them before you even meet them.
I mean, I know I'm a little old fashioned. Sometimes I say I should have been born in the 1950s. Not to say there's not great things now, because we've progressed and there's a lot
Right.
of great things. I kid because, I love the United States of America, and I love some of the things that obviously that was before I was born too, just so you guys know, obviously. But I just like some of the structure piece more so than anything else. We have definitely progressed. We've definitely come a long way with technology, women's rights, and a lot of different things. So I wouldn't want to go back to that. But I do miss some of the structure and some of the getting things done and having that pride in your household, having that pride in yourself, having your pride in your country. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have those thought processes, especially the way I grew up. I didn't get to see any of that stuff when I was younger, born to, into drug infested environment, not knowing my father, all those different things, right? Drinking for several years, being a womanizer, treating women poorly. I didn't understand those things, but I still always had that pride and drive. And that's another thing I think leaders need to have. They need to have unrelentless drive in the right way.
Right.
Right. To get stuff done, to try to get stuff done efficiently, but try to get stuff done where you're uniting people instead of drawing people apart. And I think maybe a long time ago, I mean, I know we've never been perfect, obviously, here in the United States by any means, but I can say this. I think we used to have a little bit more pride, and we need to get to that a little bit more. Now, in some areas we've progressed, in some areas I think we've lost.
No, I certainly do agree. I think that a lot has been lost, and we need to get that back where people
For
are.
what we've gained, we've lost.
Hmm.
It's kind of weird, right? We've gained all these, you know, black rights are more, women rights more, but we've lost like family, and that's a fact
Hmm.
statistically. So it's kind of weird. So the more we progress, the more we lose too.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you lose that like structure, and it's our leaders, our leaders from the top up, from the presidents, whatever presidents, all the way down. There's only two fashions, red and blue. They tell us what to do. We can't make up our minds. We think we're making up our minds. We're not. Even the smartest people out there, they think, yes, we're going to go. No one has your back. Believe me, they have their own agenda, their own friends. I don't care what anyone says. They're both on the same team, just pulling in two different directions to make sure we're pulling in two different directions. And that's not my goal as a leader. That's not my goal at all. That's not what I do at home. That's not what I do at work. That's not how I conduct my life, and that's not how it should be. We can actually change politics. We can actually change the United States and make it better than it's ever been before with the right leadership. But some people say that's kumbaya or pie in the sky. It's actually not. It's actually not. It can be done. It's just having great conversations, putting differences aside for long enough to be able to meet in the middle where everyone gets a little bit of piece of the pie. But there does have to be one leader. I mean, that's just the way
Right.
we're structured. So we're structured that way as human beings, but we still need that leader to be a positive reinforcement, not a divider. And we have too many dividers.
Now, do you think, because I want to go back to something that you said, like when you were growing up,
Mm.
obviously, your life wasn't stable at all. There was a lot of inconsistency and a lot of unstableness going on. But now, as an adult, is this the reason why, like, having that stability, having people coming together and working together and building that family unit is so important to you?
Yeah, it was always important to me as a young age. I was always chasing it though. I just never had it. I was just always chasing it. But it's important because I didn't get to have the family I wanted. I didn't get to create the full family that I wanted. Always, whatever that was sold on TV or whatever I seen from my friends. Living in this nice big house, two kids, whatever the case may be, married for the rest of your
The
life,
white
right?
picket fence,
I have the
yeah.
house, and we're not quite married yet. We're on our way, and we have a great family. So there's no different. You just need two individuals, whatever they look like, whatever their backgrounds are, same, whatever. It doesn't really matter. That are working together to build a family unit. Yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to give back to the community. Why you wanted to give back to the community, but I've been leading since a young age, and I never realized that, even though I had all that instability. I can remember back in school when there were some racist situations, and I would get into fist fights, and I would bring people together. Honestly, God, we'd have conversations, and I can remember having those conversations, and right after it. So yeah, I think I've always been a leader, even a leader of a small gang when I was younger. So stuff like that, you know, whether it's good or bad,
That's
I was a
right.
leader, and there's good leaders and there's bad leaders, like I said before. But
Right.
I'm just honest,
I
right?
mean, so I mean, I think our youth today need to think about that. If you're struggling, if you're in a situation where it's not stable, and there's a lot of inconsistency going on, but there's always hope, right? So
Yeah,
don't give up. Like you always had that in the back of your mind. Like
always.
you wanted this. Like you said something. You said like, oh, looking at the my friend's house and looking at that. So now today, what we have is I'm looking on social media. I'm seeing what this person has, if it's real, right? Because let's be
But we don't
honest,
know. We don't
not
know. Yeah.
everybody that's posting that house or that car, that jewelry,
It's
or
fake
that money
sometimes.
is really there. So I think sometimes we forget about that, and we put these expectations that are not
Not
real, right? They're
realistic.
not
Correct.
realistic. However, it's nice to have goals, right? And hope, and to see
You should
something.
always have goals.
It doesn't matter the environment that you're in right at this moment, but where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like
Yeah.
where would you like to be? And you work towards that. Sometimes they don't even think that. You start just you're reflecting on your past and your present, but like the negative aspects of it.
Yeah.
There has to be something good.
I could tell you, man. Boy, I've always had these goals, and I could tell you right now, there's probably not many people would have even thought that I would be sitting where I'm at today. I've even surpassed the things that I've written down. I have every single thing right now that I've ever put forth on a piece of paper, almost every single thing, and that's the truth. Now, if you saw my childhood, just like a lot of people like out there probably going to listen to this, you would have never thought it. You would never thunk it. Um, Man, I would fall over drunk at times. I've crashed cars. I would even, but when I was a kid, just the situation I would come from, you know, came from. I've actually done everything just about that I wanted to do, from traveling through the United States, going to the Grand Canyon. We went down to Disney World, all these different things that flying, wherever we've gone. And it's just been tremendous. So if you have that drive, you have that goal, you can accomplish it. But I used to always say to myself, even at my worst moments, I'm going to be great. I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm going to be rich. I would say it all the time. I remember having conversations where I'd be sitting at a table, would be drunk with a whole bunch of friends, and I would look at them and say, one day, I'm just going to let you know I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm just going to let you know that. And they'd laugh.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
I'm
what did
drunk.
they say?
I'm
They're
drunk.
looking at
They
you like
laugh.
you're
I'm
crazy,
drunk
right?
like a skunk, right? Drunk off
Right.
my ass. It doesn't seem realistic. I'm not doing well. I'm living in an addict. At one of the times, I can remember many times like this, right? Maybe I just had a DWI. I used to say it all the time. But I did have an aunt, and I could say to this day, even though I haven't spoken to her in a very long time, and it's unfortunate. It's not my choice. But she used to always say, "There's something great about you." My Aunt Rita, she used to hit, she's like, "You just got to stop drinking. You have this energy around you, have this positivity." I would get that from a lot of people. A lot of people would tell me. But if you don't have self belief in yourself fully, I mean, even though I was saying it fully, it's hard to get out of those situations, because if you've only seen negative, you have to take things slowly, and you have to get rid of as much negative hurt that you've had, the trauma, and work on it and write your goals down and really physically go inside and understand the appreciation for life. That's what makes you a great leader too, and helps you unite people.
And you said something important. You said like your aunt. Your aunt used to tell you
Mhm.
these things. She said
While I
voice
was drunk,
right while
she
you were
may have
drunk,
been
right?
drunk too.
All right, but she was still saying it, right? She's
Yeah,
still saying these positive things to you as a reminder, right? So people out there, that if you're that person, or you're someone who is feeling down, like the just being there for them and being that positive voice in their ear. Like you said, like sometimes we're in a supermarket and the person's ringing up, they look upset, and you will say something funny, or you'll say something to make them smile. And then, or just to shift that whole
right.
negative energy. And then their whole body language change. You just made a difference
All
in
the
their
time.
day. And it happens
Yeah,
all the time. And we forget that. I think that's lost because like COVID has had us with this six
yeah.
feet apart, mask. You can't even see anybody's facial expression anymore. Stay away. And somebody's trying to say something to you. You're just like, you don't know what that person is going through that day. And just a smile, just a hello
Yeah.
can change that person's day.
It's
And I
important.
think that's what's lost, right? And that's, again, communication. We forgot how to just be empathetic to people
Yeah, to
at
be
this point.
empathetic for sure. So let me ask you, Kelly, what goals did you have, and where are you at now for your goals, and have you felt like you fulfilled most of them, or?
I mean, I would just say, I think at one point I was just lost. I knew that there was something that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
I knew that I wanted to make a difference. I was a person that always likes to help others, to the point where I'm helping others so much I wasn't helping myself,
I think
right?
that happens a lot, especially to
Right.
Pisces. I'm a
Right.
Pisces
Yeah.
like you.
So
They are Pisces.
whether it's in the fashion industry where I'm helping other talent live their dream, or whether it's, I was a lactation consultant helping new moms. Like I've always been there to nurture and to help other people. But inside I was lost. I couldn't deal with my own emotions. I drank. So I was alcoholic too. So that was a way of like numbing that pain and not dealing with my own issues. And I think now today, a lot of my goals was just self-healing and finding my place for myself, and to grow as a person, and to really understand who Kelly is, because I knew who I was, but all the drinking and stuff that got lost, right? And all those positive things about me was like, I didn't realize it was really me. That makes sense. Like I thought, oh, that's just the alcohol that makes me fun to be around, or
Mm,
that gives me more outgoing and want to talk to people. But no, that was just me. And it took a while for me to discover that
right.
once I stopped drinking, and to really kind of learn myself again, and to relive life, because life was just a big blur, a big fog for me. I just went through the days and went through the motions, right? Social media was a big thing in my life, being in the fashion entertainment business. So it's like you're living in another reality, a dream world, right? But then like you'll wake up and everything will hit you to where like, oh well, now I have to wake up and deal with this, right?
Right.
I want to escape that. It was an escape. You have to learn not to escape. You have to learn to deal with your issues, face
That's what
them,
alcohol is, or
right,
weed, or
and face them and grow. So my goal, like, I'm back in school getting my master's in business, right? I'm still here helping. I found you and my other half, because I needed someone to help me see what it was to have a good life, right, without the drinking, what life was meant to be, and that was to help myself and to help others the right way. No matter what, it's still a work in progress, right? I mean,
yeah.
I think our goals is always ever changing,
Yeah,
because
we're always a work in
right,
progress.
like it's always ever changing, because I could say, okay, I want to do this, and then it's like, wait, maybe that's not really what I want to do. I'm gonna veer, because I've learned to like really think about think about that stuff, write those things down. Doesn't make any sense. Is this really truly achievable? Am I being realistic, right?
Mhm.
Or am I falling back into that thought process of dreamland, right? Is this realistic? Is this something that I really truly want to do, or was told that I should do? There's a lot going on in your head at that time, when you really need to kind of like sort through all those thought processes and find what is really real.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult when you're always trying to push too. I say this quite often, right? We could stop right here and we have a wonderful life. And then we always look at each other, but then we wouldn't be who we are and we wouldn't be as happy. So if
Right.
you're one of those people, then understand then more obstacles come with that. Even if you just sit right here, be happy, there's still gonna be obstacles that come. But greater obstacles always come with a greater challenge.
Oh, and obstacles that we faced, right? I just think
Because it's
that,
a greater challenge.
right, and we challenge ourselves every day. We always challenging ourselves on to what we want to do, and where we want to be, and who we want to help. And it's
Mhm.
not going to be easy. I think like people in this world today, it's easier to believe the negative than to believe positive. It's like,
Well, that's
I'd
why
rather you lie to me and tell me, and when you're being very transparent, some people don't want to hear it. They don't believe you're telling the
which
truth.
is
And
which is amazing,
right.
right? Like a lot of people, when I would respond on social media when I first said I was going to run, they're like, "You can't be that person. There's no way." I am that person. I am who I
But
say I am.
you got to understand, because of social media,
Right.
right? Like, people have built
Or
themselves.
not just social media. I think people, leaders lying,
Oh,
especially
right,
in the
no, no,
political form.
but we're talking about posting on social.
Yeah.
Like, people have a whole nother alternative, alter ego on Facebook, and a
Right.
whole different life, right? Then you go and you're like, wait a minute, what is this show, like Catfish, right? They build this whole persona, right? Because they just gonna build another person, and it's not really them. So it's hard to believe, especially when someone is being transparent and being honest, and is really want to help. You hear that all the time, but then when you find out that that's a lie, after a while, like, it doesn't matter who's saying it. It's just a lie from the start. It's like, I'm not gonna believe you. You had to prove. We had to work so harder to prove that we
That we're telling the
actually
truth.
are telling the truth. Then it would just be easier just to lie, and they'll believe that right off the bat. Which is, yeah, it's
bizarre.
backwards,
It
and
is
it is
backwards.
bizarre. But that doesn't mean that we're gonna stop and give up on what we want to do, because we know that's right, right? And this is what we were born to do. This is what God put us here together to do, and to make a bigger impact. You and I doing it together than doing it apart.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think people have a hard time believing the truth because like you were saying, they're lied to by the people in positions of power. What they need to look at is look what those people are doing. What are they saying? Are they saying anything positive, or are they saying negative? And you got to be careful because people are slick with what they're saying, and they use double talk a
Hmm.
lot. Some of the best leaders do it. They use double talk a lot. And what do I mean by that? They'll say something good and then say something negative in the same
Right.
reference. And some of that's telling the truth. They're always talking about pushing forward. They acknowledge the past, but they're not stuck in the past. But they're always talking about what can we do differently? What could I do differently? Like when you hear me speak, I'm always like, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently? Could I present it differently? And that's when you know somebody's being genuine, because genuine people don't have a problem saying they did something wrong. People that are not genuine, they will barely ever admit that they're wrong, or they just touch the surface of being wrong, and they shift blame consistently. Listen to what they're saying, whether they're shifting blame to the government, whether they're shifting blame to another, individual. They're always shifting blame because they're not being honest. They're not being honest. Honest people don't shift blame. That's how you know the truth. I don't shift blame. It is what it is. If I didn't do it, I didn't do it.
Right.
Right. If I didn't understand your perspective on something, that's on me, and I have to readjust and understand how to better shift my mindset to understand your perspective. Or maybe we just have to part and say, hey, we can't understand each other respectively. But good leaders, great leaders, the greatest leaders all time, they take responsibility and they never shift it into a negative way. Those are the real leaders. They're not spinning the truth. Because you got a lot of people that like to spin the truth consistently. And then they say, I'm doing good for this race, or I'm doing this for this gender, and or whatever the case is. And are they really? Or are they trying to do good just for themselves? Now, no matter what, you're, as an individual, if you're going to be honest, you're always trying to progress for yourself. So you should admit, yeah, I'm trying to do something also to help myself develop, whatever it may be. There's nothing wrong with saying that. But also you have to be honest. Is it for the better purpose of yourself and others? Or is it just for really the purpose of yourself? Most people, it's just for themselves.
Just for themselves, or for just one, like you said, like
One
for
angle.
one from one angle. And I think
Correct.
that's the problem when we're only tackling, like if there's an issue and we're only tackling that from one angle, then you're not seeing the full picture, right? And your results are just gonna be one-sided.
Because your truth can be different than my truth.
Right.
And that's what people don't understand. Like, we've all lived different, unique lives. We didn't grow up the same way. We didn't go through life the exact same way as, I didn't go through life exactly the same way as you did. And you didn't go through life exactly the same way as I did. So why is it that what you've gone through is more important than what I've gone through, or vice versa? It's not.
Absolutely not. But I actually can learn
Absolutely.
from you. So if you went
I learned from you too.
If you went through something that maybe I haven't, or it's something similar, but like I'm gonna ask, like, how did you deal with it? Like, how did you work through those emotions and stuff like that? And I think that's what it is. I think as a community, in order for that community to be united, is finding that common ground. Instead of having a problem and then this side is saying, oh, we should do it this way. This side is saying, but then nothing's ever going to get done, right? Because we're just both going back and forth of what we feel is the right way. But that's not working together. That's not working together as a team. That's not being united. Right. So within your community, and it's taking action. You're just going to sit there and complain about something. Take action. Like Derek and I, when we moved back to Bristol, was like, okay, if we see a problem, we do this in our everyday life at home. We do this in our work. We do this in the community. We see a problem. We're like, okay, what can we do? We're not going to just sit there and complain about the problem or just talk about the problem. Like example, 2 years ago, we seen a post on Facebook, and it was about kids needing sporting equipment and art supplies for summer camp. Derek and I was like, wow, we know how, me personally, never been to camp. You could have been growing up and you wanted that basketball, that baseball, you couldn't afford it. We got up and went to the, we were able to, but we went to the sporting goods store and bought stuff, and we went and hand delivered, and the smiles on their faces is all we needed, right?
Right.
Because that's the difference that we wanted to make. We took action to a problem. And if everybody was to do that, if there's something going on in the community that someone needs assistance, or an organization
I think
needs help.
Organizations are doing that. I think the problem is other organizations I know the problem is other organizations only want to do it for themselves.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Because if the organizations, which is part of the community, all teamed up, if there was one area that needed help,
about all the time.
and all the organizations band together, you're going to make a bigger impact than everyone trying to do it on their own and saying, oh, I did it better, or it doesn't make any sense.
Well, we've spoken to the head of the Boys and Girls Club, Jay and Maya. I've spoken to the head of United Way, Manny, right? And I came up with a plan to sit with all three of us and another business leader, Scott Rosado, in the community. He owns a couple businesses, and I came up with a creed between the three of us. And guess what? They didn't want to move forward because it was all about, yes, the black people are being held down, or yes, this one particular race was being held down, or this one particular gender was being held down. I listen. I understand people are being held down, but at the end of the day, we still need to move forward in a constructive way. I try to bring everyone together, unite them. They can tell you. It's a fact. I still have this creed to this day that I sent to them in the conversations that I've had with them. So I can tell you, I'm one of the only few men in Bristol that has sat down with the Republican Party, Henry, right, the state representative, sat down with him, and we tried to bring in different aspects of the other side on the blue side. And for a little while, it looked like we're going to get things off and try to get people united. And then it fell apart. It fell apart because no one truly wants to unite the way I looked at it. Like, meet in the middle, let's figure things out so we can all get something done for the better good of the community. I was the first one since we came back. Everyone will start to claim now they want to unite. Just not the fact. Just look back at 4 years of posting. Look at back. Ask these people. Ask these people if I sat down with them. There's nobody else in the community that's done this. No one else.
I mean, it's unfortunate because then we let our own like personal views get in the way of the people that we're actually trying to help within the community.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we just need to set our personal differences aside and say, okay, what is truly doing this for the betterment of our community, not for myself or who am I rubbing elbows with, who's going to get the money, who's going to do this. We could do it together.
Yeah.
And we can be a stronger team together
To get more stuff done.
And it shouldn't be, I'm going to talk about togetherness when somebody else is talking about togetherness, but do you truly mean that you want things to be together and united? I don't know. I don't think so, because
the actions don't show.
the actions. So actions, as we always say, actions speak louder than words. Look at the person's actions. They could say they want this, but are they actually doing something to do it? And if they are trying to do it, do they really do it meaningfully? Or is this a photo op? I'm just doing it for now because it's election time, so now I'm going to go down there and help at a food drive. Were you always doing that? Or is this just at this moment, I'm going to show face and do that? I think that's what's lost. It's like, I'm just doing this to make myself look good, but it's not really to help the community as a whole. And I think, I'll call out our people in our community. I'll call out other organizations. You know where Derek and I are. We're here to work together as a team to help our youth thrive, to help our adults in our community. We can't do it alone. You can't do it alone, but we could certainly do it together, and we can make a bigger difference.
Absolutely.
And we could speed up the process. It's not just to say that we're going to do something and we're going to put a bandage over it. I'm not about waiting for something to happen when the chaos happens and then we're in crisis mode. Why can't we be preventive? Why can't we figure out something before that? Let's tackle these issues before the issues even happen. We know where the issues are. We know what's going on in our community, but we choose to just wait and deflect and blame it on others why those things are happening. And it's never a really
But that's not
solid
effective
plan.
leadership.
No, it's not.
It's not effective leadership. I'm always proactive within my job. We always try to be proactive at home. We try to be proactive in the community. We've put a lot of effort out to do this, and it's very difficult to get people to unite when they only have their own agendas. It can 100% be done, but you have to really force it. You have to really force it. People feel like their one agenda is more important than the other person's agenda, like I said before, and it can't be that way. We have to figure out how to give just a little bit, just a little bit. I have to give a little bit. You have to give a little bit, but more gets done. And I'm not saying we're going to please everyone. It's just not going to happen. So even if I became mayor, I wouldn't. I understand. I'm not going to please everyone, but I can get more stuff done working together with everyone on the city council, working with every single department. That's where it's different, right? I'm willing to not only just hold people accountable, but get the transparency that's never, they talk about transparency. Jeff talks about it. It's not true transparency. I'm talking about sitting at the table and saying, hey, these are all the cards on the table. Now look at it. Here's what we're dealing with. What are the ideas? Here's my ideas. Here's where I want to execute. Can you guys get on board to execute this? This is what I do with my team every single day, and it works. It works. They come up with some ideas I implement, but my whole vision is my vision, and it gets done because they understand that I have the best for the company, for them, and for the whole, the customer. And the customer to me is the community, is the people living in the community. That's the customer. So it's no different than anything I do at my job. So I don't have any direct experience working in government, but I have worked on the boards. I have run, our nonprofit with you. So there's no different. I've been in management for 20 years. I understand how to get stuff done. Like I said, I know how to delegate, I know how to execute. And if there's something I don't know how to do, I go to the people that can help me get it done. And same thing within, right, the city. There's people who've been doing their jobs pretty well for quite some time, but they still need a better perspective sometimes to get things done a little more efficiently, right? And where everyone communicates in every single department with transparency. Every week we're meeting, we're talking, we're doing things differently than we've ever done before. Because I'm going to come in, yes, I say with fresh eyes, especially not being in government. I'm going to bring in different unique ideas to unite people to get it done, period. We are going to move Bristol forward 30, 40 years into the future. I see things that most people don't. And if you see them, I know how to execute them well before it's happened. I did at my job. There's something that where I would say we need to get documents in. I said it 12 years ago. We're doing it now. Getting income documents in for customers. Said it 12 years ago. We're doing it now. Right. So the company finally, it's a big company, got around to doing it, but something I said a long time ago. Right. So there's certain things I see that I know that the community can do differently that other communities don't have in Bristol. There's really, Bristol's actually unique, but we don't utilize it yet. We don't know how to package yet. I know how to package those things to get it done. But you need everyone doing their job in every single department, communicating together to execute and holding each other accountable in a respectful manner. That's the difference between me and the rest of the leaders. There's no other leaders that are willing to do that. Transparency and honesty, but true honesty. If I make a mistake, I'm going to own it, right? But if you make a mistake, you should own it and not shift the blame to anyone else because I'm going to hold you accountable for it. But we can do it in a respectful manner. That's how it gets done.
So our overall question of how do we bring unity within the community?
Yeah. You're honest, you're transparent. Um, just basically the stuff I said now, right? You have a vision on how to grow the community. You have a vision on how to communicate with one another. So whether that's digitally, whether that's on paper, whether it's through social media, everyone is going to be on the same page as much as possible, communicating, executing the person's vision. And typically, the head of the community is the mayor. And then it trickles down to everyone else, just like the president, the government. I'm sorry, the president, and then it goes on to governor, so on and so forth. So in our city, it's going to be the mayor. So however the mayor's vision is of getting things done is how the community is going to run. As you hear now, if that could be done digitally, social media, and one-on-one conversations all in the same room consistently, not just to have the meeting.
Right. And it has to be our community too. I mean, we have to ask our community to be understanding towards one another, to be empathetic to other people within your
Right.
community and to want to work together. You can't have a community work together that doesn't want to work together, right? They want, but they're not willing to give. So, I ask for our community is also to
They
give
have to
back.
give.
They have to give.
Yeah.
You have to give in just a little bit to get things done
Right.
and to be understanding to other people, right? And not just yourself.
Well, that's explaining like what I was kind of talking about. I'm glad you hit on that. That's explaining each department head would have to explain what they're doing, why they're doing it. So maybe the community has a better understanding of what the jobs are, what we can realistically get done. Something I do at my job on like from the higher ups down. So to the community, sometimes the community loses the information and they don't truly understand what certain departments or what the mayor can actually do or whatever the case may be or whoever the city council. A lot of it revolves around the understanding and how well you explain.
Communication.
Yeah,
It's
how well
communication.
you explain something, and then realistically, if we wanted to do something for you in that particular, let's say we wanted to fix the road, what do we have to do to get it done? Right, we have to bring in probably some additional revenue. Can we get some assistance from the state? Whatever the case may be, can we bring in some outside contractors? So this has to be explained why these decisions are being made. Maybe not all down to the fine detail, but enough where the community understands in a whole what you're trying to do. And as you said, that way the community has to give because we can't get every single thing done. We can't make every single person happy. But if you give enough, we can make most of you live a better life within the community. Does that
Yeah,
explain?
that explains it.
So hopefully that does, because to me, like a lot of people go around, especially our current mayor, talk about transparency. To me, transparency is how did we come up with a particular contract? How was it really bidded on? Did it really go out to other companies outside of even Connecticut? Right? We don't know. We just said yes, it was bidded on. We saw 3 bids come in, and it's explained a little bit. But then people are like, well, what about this or what about that? And it gets people guessing. You just have to be a little bit more open within reason, right? We can't say every single thing of it, but within reason. It's very important to be as transparent as possible, especially with the people you work with on the city council or in every department, whether it's the fire department, police department, water department. It doesn't make a difference. Everyone has to be pulling together to get things done. If you're not, and you're not communicating consistently with finance and all these other different entities, the board of ed especially, right? Things collapse, and that's what's happening in our city now. Yeah, there's buildings going up, but does the flow of Bristol really flow well? It doesn't. It doesn't. So it looks like things are happening great, but behind the scenes, as you can see, things are still falling apart. And you just can't make promises that you probably can't deliver. I'm not going to try to make promises that I can't deliver on, right? I'm going to try to be as realistic about the things I can deliver on. So I believe that's the differences. But I mean, we're almost done with our show. Can you believe it?
Oh yeah.
55 minutes in.
Fast.
Yeah, hopefully we touched on some critical topics. I think we did, all the way from the community. From home, to community, to the job.
It's about being united as a whole. And if you practice it in your home and if you practice it at work, you're going to practice it in the community. It's just going to be, if you live that way, it's just going to come out naturally, because that's just what we do every day. We want our community to be united. We want everybody to feel important, to feel their own worth within our community, right, and have their voice heard. And I think that's important, because some people, they don't feel like their voice is being heard within that community.
Now we're going to wrap it up. I thank you guys for tuning in again, Derek and Kelly, with Together We Solve podcast. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. It was a great episode. Reach out to us, make sure you follow us on Nutmeg TV, leave us a comment, and follow us. Have a great one.
Bye.
Step into our store and discover a stunning array of dancewear. Introducing Dancingly Yours, your one-stop shop for all things dance and delight for ages 2 to 92. From tiny tutus to energetic tap shoes, our store is a treasure trove of dance essentials. At Dancingly Yours, we offer an extensive collection of dancewear and accessories that cater to all styles and levels. We carry top brands and the latest fashion trends. From ballet to hip-hop, lyrical to jazz, ballroom to liturgical, as well as gymnastics, you'll find the best selection right here at Dancingly Yours. But we're not just a store. We're a community that celebrates the joy of dance. Our expert team is passionate about dance, just like you. So we're here to assist you in finding the perfect fit. And the best part, Dancingly Yours offers competitive pricing in-store and online. Dancingly Yours, easy to get to and worth the trip from anywhere, right on Route 10 in Plainville.